I think PlayStation is having its Warner Brothers moment. Stay with me. It's a little tongue in cheek, but I'll explain my thinking. Back in 2018, there was an article that I saw, and it was very interesting to me. I don't know if I saw it in 2018 or afterwards, but apparently, John Papadopoulos writes for DSO Gaming that Warner Brothers follows Ubisoft's example, will move everything to games as a service. In an interview with GamesBeat, David Haddad, president of Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment, revealed that the publisher plans to move everything to games as a service. This is the second publisher that invests as much to games as a service as possible, with Ubisoft already doing this with pretty much all of their franchises. As Haddad told GameBeat, but more than ever, the tech stack, whether it's for publishing or BI or marketing, that you build and serve these games on as we increasingly move everything to games as a service, the kind of enabling technology you need to keep them hyper social, to keep them serving well, to keep them engaged, to take innovations of game makers and deliver them like the Nemesis system. You see a lot of our investment, not just in classic development, designers and engineers and artists, but increasingly in teams that end up serving live games. Interesting. The reason I actually went ahead to put this in front of you guys is because at the forefront of this news that more games have been canceled, I've seen a lot of people be surprised. And to be very honest, I don't think anybody really did think that PlayStation, who made some of the shiniest single-player games, would find themselves in this particular situation. Longtime audience member, supporter of the channel, content creator, and I think my inspiration for making as many videos, and many of you probably don't know, but this is podcast now, Alex, he's basically expressing how shocking and irate this all is to him. And a little bit, he's just basically confused as to why they even decided that they were going to go ahead and kick off this particular project. And to be very honest, I can see that shock. But then as I also wanted to basically, get into that state of mind, I had to remember that Alex was there when we all went through the shock that we received with a game like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League from Rocksteady being a live service game. I don't know, Alex, if you see this video, but do you remember how we were all quite surprised? Like, is it going to be a live service game? Is it going to be a shooter? And that was simply because Warner Brothers was already making those plans to take their single player IP game, one of the top in their own coffers, the Arkham games, and use the Arkhamverse and convert it into a live service game. I think that's probably what PlayStation was trying to do with the God of War live service game that you see here that has now been canceled. I think they were going to do something with it. I don't know if it had gone far in development. I don't know how far it would have gone, but I see, Alex's, shout out to Alex, by the way, posting Warrior 64's, comment about it is very interesting. Another audience member of mine, William Meyer, shout out to you, also tagged me in this commies post that put the list all out there. If you look, you see games like The Last of Us multiplayer. They wanted to leverage The Last of Us name. But what's funny is The Last of Us already had its multiplayer, right? So it was basically just taking factions and building upon it. But I don't know if they thought or if they were confident that it was going to pretty much be something that a lot of people could take. Perhaps they also tried to go ahead and expand it, and it didn't look anything like The Last of Us players enjoyed their, multiplayer aspect of, or maybe it was just different. Then you had Spider-Man 2 multiplayer. That would have taken a lot of investment, man. A melee multiplayer game? Where have I heard of that before? If it ain't Gotham Knights, it's more co-op, but that would have taken a lot of, effort, a lot of investment, especially having blown $300 million. I don't think they blew $300 million on Gotham Knights. Okay. I don't know how much they spent on that game, but many developers have mentioned to me that the game did not cost that much in terms of development, that, Warner Bros. Montreal is not one that Warner Bros. Was interested in giving a lot of money in developing the game. I still think it's a solid game. I mean, I stand corrected. A lot of people that see the footage and see the gameplay, they've finally said, you know what, we're going to play this game, and I can't believe the things they're saying. So PlayStation wanting to take this route, to me, again, like I said, it knocked me away from the shock. I was a little shocked, and I was like, what, a God of War? But then I'm like, well, hold on. Then they also have a Horizon, live service game that they're working on, where there was news just the other day that their goal is to try to bring in about 1 million players. into this particular ecosystem, or somebody's LinkedIn stated that their goal was aiming to pull in 1 million players and so on and so forth. I know people kind of took that and started saying they only want 1 million. That's, you got to look for some broader context. The best we can do is that this game actually exists. But then there's already another game that's coming out of China that pretty much has already gone in there to basically look a lot like Horizon, that wants to do the survival version of this. So there's going to be some competition there. But don't be surprised. The industry has changed. A lot of players saw these changes a long time ago. Now, many of them were trying to capitalize on the monies there. But I guarantee you that if you take just a look at this new data set that's come out from Matthew Ball, I mean, it doesn't say anything that will shock you too much, because we've been putting things out like Matt Piscatella's weekly engagement data every single time he brings it out. We talk about it. But many people kind of always, dismissed it. I saw people dismiss it. And I always wondered, why would you dismiss data that reports where players are spending their time and their money and all of the above? Well, it appears that when it was all said and done, the reality was basically going to go ahead and be fed to everyone. When you put into perspective, even at the end of the day, that players are now even going back. If you look at, say, platforms like Steam, this past year, that players spent only 15% of, players were playing new games or something like that. Instead, many more people were playing older titles, which is just so wild. You can tell that the market is in a very strange place. The gaming market is in such a strange place that at the end of the day, it would take many, many miracles for all of this to pretty much manifest itself in a way that everybody can come out without getting severely scarred or burned. But if you were thinking right now that the status quo was going to continue, well, I guess you're in for a surprise. Now, does this mean, and this also challenges something that Reforged said just the other day in one of his videos, that PlayStation didn't have many single player games to show this, generation because they don't need to, because they don't have any serious competition, because they didn't need to show anything, because they can just get away with it. I thought that must be the most strange thing ever, because at the end of the day, what we're hearing from sources like Shuhei Yoshida, it doesn't seem like that's the case. What it seems like is they don't have it. They don't have the money to invest and take risks. They don't have the money to basically put out such kinds of, that level, or I guess I'll say amount of content that would probably match back in the day. Back in the day, they were making these games for, much less. I mean, if you want to look at a marker of what the industry was like at one point, even though it's still a big sum, Ghost of Tsushima was actually developed with reportedly about $60 million. For them to go from like $60 million to start hitting $200-300 million from the end of one generation into the beginning of another generation, you got to know that something has basically gone awry in video game development costs. I'm going to leave you guys to, chew on this one. Just let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I really appreciate you guys, and we'll talk pretty soon, hopefully in another one. Peace out.